as Fire and Us and your characters suggest about the need to challenge the status quo, to question the status quo in order to grow as a person, and as a society.
I think especially with Tsireya, she was all, we watch Avatar Way of Water and we see the kindness and the gentleness and the welcoming that she has for the Sully family. And then destruction hits and her entire world, which she thought her life would turn out to be, was flipped upside down. And with that, she realizes all the people she loves, connection, what Awa is,
Right.
the love that you have for your family and the people around you. Sometimes in order to get justice for that love, you have to create change. And that's not going to look like what our parents and what the people that are older than us look like. So there is that friction. But with her, she's realized, how can I still respect my parents while creating the change I need? And that is a fine line.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Do you want to add something?
I feel like Spider. I don't know if he's like into I don't know if he's really challenging like the parents as much as he wants to stay with them. And I think for him it's less like he doesn't even feel like he has the authority to challenge. He just wants to be a part of the family and he doesn't want to be kicked out essentially. So he's just trying to like hang on for dear life, I feel like.
Right.
But yeah, I guess.
For Took, she doesn't want to wonder if, she wants to make it when, and she doesn't want to be underestimated, and she doesn't want to say goodbye to the people she loves and just be left behind and go to safety. She wants to be there on the front lines and fighting for what she believes in and fighting for the people she loves. And so that's just a big part of her. I think that's kind of has been a seed planted in her heart since the beginning, but something she's definitely growing more and more into.
It's beautiful seeing the growth of your characters that are also very close to the ongoing friction between Courage and Jake, and also very close to the friction between the Metkayina and Pakayan, and experience firsthand the question of whether someone deserves to be forgiven or when we should forgive someone. Do you think that younger generations as us are more radical when saying this cannot be forgiven, or on the contrary, we are more open to reconciliation?
That's
really
I think that's really interesting. And I think it's more nuanced than that. I don't think it's as simple as, or radical as, okay, we can't forgive. I think if we're going to create a world where whether you are biracial or have any other culture and you look different than someone else, we have to realize that we have to have equity. And that is something that we see in our world. When someone is coming to a different country or a different clan, there are changes that need to be made because they're not going to have the same skills or common sense. So I think it's more of how do we create inclusion? And the younger generation, because they don't have the barriers that an older generation has, can be more open-minded. And when that older generation is not trying to collaborate, that's when friction is created.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's about empathy.
And I will
at
say, I
its
think
core.
war breaks down a lot of old barriers in the sense of like the Metkayina and the Tulkun, they're like, we're not, like, they don't have a lot of hope in trying to convince Tulkun to fight really, but it's like war will break down any kind of barrier and also I think can either push a new generation into good or bad. And I think you see that we're really trying, like the kids of this movie are really trying to make the best of what, with their world.
Yeah, they do the best. Your characters, like many young people today, have never really known a world without conflict, without war. What conversation would you like that Fire and Us opens about how normalized it can become to live in a continual state of conflict?
Well, Fire and Ash deals a lot with the themes of grief and where dealing with your hardships leads to. I think it shows different characters, different ages and relationships and cultures dealing with grief in very different ways, and where that line gets a bit blurred between the so-called good side and the so-called bad side of where you go and how you process and how you even move on, especially when you're still trying to keep the things you believe in together, like keeping your family together. And I think it's a very interesting just kind of thing that a lot of people will probably connect to.
If you have an experience where there's survivor's bias, and that's huge, and I think as all of us live in the United States, and there's a lot of survivor's bias where we're like, everything's going to be okay, but because when you watch Avatar Fire and Ash, you realize the only way we will actually all be okay is if we put down our weapons and have a conversation. So I really hope this film encourages people to have those tough conversations.
Like Tonowari says, killing only brings more killing. But I think he's talking about the Tulkun in that sense.